So I have a question for you tonight. So when we talk about emotional intelligence, we were talking about emotional intelligence being about understanding and managing emotions, our own emotion, understanding other people's emotion. We talked about empathy. We talked about social skills. But then leadership is really about getting things done, right? When you think, people think of a leader is the person that is, just making sure that you're bringing the financial results. It's about ROI, right? So what is the connection? Empathy, so we're saying emotional intelligence about feelings, nothing more. And then we're talking about leadership, which is just to get people to get things done and to accomplish, to get those objectives, to get the financial performance. So what is the connection? So tonight, I want to invite you to reflect with me with your own personal experiences in your career. Do you think that there may be a connection between emotional intelligence and leadership? So I'm going to stop sharing again for a moment. And just like we had our first brave souls, Jessica, Nelson, Art, Christy, that participating, I would love to hear from you. Do you think that there is a connection between emotional intelligence and leadership?
So
Mayra?
yeah, I I think definitely there is a connection because the way you do things really matters on how you're feeling. You do the things in a very different way if you're feeling happy than when you're feeling sad. When you have problems at home, you're gonna do a very different job if you live in a harmonious um, family. So there's definitely a connection in there.
I love that. Well, the first participant tonight, Mayra, for this question says that there is a connection and it matters how you're feeling, how you feel at home. It's going to affect how you lead, right? Okay, wonderful. Who else? Who else has thoughts on this?
So I think also if you have strong emotional intelligence, you'll understand or you'll be able to better understand what motivates the people that work for you if you're a leader and what motivates them, and then they will be more effective in their jobs and more motivated, and you'll also probably enhance retention, which is really important because trying to hire new people is very time consuming and expensive.
I love that. So, so one of the things we'll talk about tonight is that with emotional intelligence, because you're going to change your lens where you're not going to be so self-focused, you're not going to be so focused on yourself. You can start paying attention more to other people and learning them. One of the things you can learn about other people is what motivates them, right? So I love that, Joan. So if we are working with people as leaders and people, that report to us, we need to spend the time and develop the capacity, to have the empathy to learn what are the things that motivate them and then follow up on them and do more of the things that motivate them. I love that. I'll take another comment.
Hey, Luis, I have one more thing to add to that. Cynthia.
Oh, Cynthia, how are you? So Cynthia.
Good. Calling it with Nelson. I will say leadership, definitely a natural leader has a high emotional IQ as opposed to one that might have been hired, right? So there's that difference, right? You can obviously, this is a reason I think for your thing, is you can have leaders that have low emotional intelligence and aren't functioning like the former respondent said, like can't produce highly functioning teams. Additionally, I think in what I've seen in the corporate and nonprofit, corporate private and corporate public is that as you go up the chain in leadership and you have less and less reports, I think you can get away with having less EQ than a team manager that's sitting at a lower level, interacting daily with more teams, right? So it's like being like, I guess the difference between being a general as opposed to like a lieutenant. Like, I think you can, not that it's right, but I think you will see that. Like, I think you can get away with less emotional IQ as you move up. But that's
I think I love that. That's a very interesting thought, so anyone who wants to, maybe address, talk, respond to Cynthia there, right? So the difference, I think Cynthia is proposing something very interesting, that as you go up in hierarchy, right, how the mix between IQ and EQ, right? So intellectual intelligence and emotional intelligence, as you go up, Do you need more? Do you need less? Can you get away with less emotional intelligence if you're higher up the chain? Stephanie, I think, has a thought. Well, we have Stephanie, and then we'll follow with Art.
The observation that Cynthia made is very interesting. However, it is based on the assumption that the trajectory to leadership is having to lead teams all the way up. And so if that is the assumption, then it works like a bell curve, right? Where you have higher emotional intelligence as you lead more people at the lower levels, but then somewhere along the way you lose it. Once you're, ascended, you're a COO, you're in the C-suite. So I think if you have it, you have it, right? You never lose it. And then there's some people like myself that have to develop it along the way.
Very good. I love that. Thank you, Stephanie. How about Art? I think you had something to say.
I was going to chime in on the lieutenant and the general. I think that that through all tiers of an organization, emotional intelligence is important because everybody should accept the role of leadership. And if you do that, the corporate culture is going to be more vibrant and more wholesome because from all levels, from top to bottom, people are
having a connection there.
Yeah, a connection problem. Maybe
to make it.
Okay, so you're probably having a connection problem there, Art, because we lost you a little bit for a few seconds. So I'll go back to the presentation, but before I do that, there've been a lot of comments here on the chat. So why don't we just go ahead? I don't want you guys to think that we're ignoring all of the comments, but first there's a lot of greetings from different parts of, so we have greetings from Minneapolis, Tucson, Arizona, Miami, Florida, from Rowena Castillo. We have, so Art is in Tucson, Arizona, multiple folks in Minneapolis. That's great. And we have, so let's see, I think John Alto says in Orthodox Jewish tradition, the phrase is sitting Shiva, where you just sit with those who have lost a loved one, not talking, just sitting in the most raw of emotional states. That's great. Goes back to the, when we show the graphic, and we have Diana Castillo says there is a strong relationship between relationship and leadership because we are people. I love that. I think Jessica already participated and shared some comments. And then I'll just read this one from Gallo saying, emotional intelligence allows leaders to connect with their team in a meaningful, in a way meaningful to the team member and to make them understand that the leader is being true and has the members' interest in mind, as well as not only the business side. So it's not all about ROI, right? So showing interest in their life goals and interest will ease them into opening and into receptive and motivated in the business goal. So wonderful comments. I won't be able to read them all, but let's keep going. I'm gonna continue sharing here the presentation, and we'll have more opportunities to talk throughout. But I think the conclusion tonight from multiple of the participants is that we think that there is a relationship between emotional intelligence and leadership.